Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. So today we are taking on a fascinating and honestly a super practical challenge. We are going to completely demystify the math you need to take your refrigerator completely off the grid. If you've ever wanted to secure your food supply against unexpected power outages, or maybe you're planning a totally independent off-grid setup, you already know the fridge is the absolute heart of that operation. Our goal today is to hand you the exact formula to guarantee that heart never stops beating, no matter what the weather is doing outside. Which brings us to the million-dollar question, right? How many solar panels does it actually take to run a fridge 24/7? You might think it's as simple as looking at the wattage sticker on the back of the appliance, buying a solar panel that matches that number, and just calling it a day. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. The real answer is far more complex, and honestly way more interesting than that. Designing a system that truly never fails means we have to look right past those factory labels and figure out how energy actually behaves in the real world.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the off-grid fridge dream, move into measuring true power consumption, and then tackle the hidden inverter drain. After that, we'll cover building your battery bank, sizing the solar array, and finally, customizing your solar system.
All right, Section 1. The off-grid fridge dream. This is all about the ultimate goal, maintaining safe food temperatures indefinitely, completely free from the grid.
But to get there, we gotta bust a huge myth right out of the gate. A lot of folks think a plugged-in fridge runs constantly. Actually, no way. The compressor, the part doing the heavy lifting to actually cool things down, it's only active about 30% of the time. That translates to roughly 8 hours out of a full 24-hour day. So when we're sizing out our solar system, we aren't planning for a continuous, non-stop draw. We're planning for intermittent bursts of energy. Understanding this 30% rule is absolutely the foundation of getting our math right. Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, measuring true power consumption. Since the fridge isn't running constantly, how do we actually find its real electrical footprint? Look at it this way. You might have a refrigerator rated at, say, 75 watts. If you incorrectly assumed it ran 24 hours a day, your math would be completely busted. In reality, accounting for that 30% runtime we just talked about, a 75-watt fridge uses roughly 600 watt-hours of energy a day. But here's the catch. This number dances around. Your actual daily use will shift based on variables like how often you fling the door open, how long you stand there looking for a snack, and even just the ambient temperature of your kitchen. Because of all that, it is highly recommended to use a plug-in energy meter over a full week just to get the exact daily average for your specific appliance.
Now that we've got our fridge's consumption down, we arrive at step 3, and honestly, the biggest plot twist of the whole process, the hidden inverter drain.
We really need to talk about the invisible load. See, your solar panels and your batteries, they deal in direct current, or DC power. But your standard household fridge, it needs alternating current, or AC power. The inverter is what makes that translation happen. But that inverter doesn't work for free, right? It requires electrical power just to stay turned on, even when the fridge compressor is totally idle. To put that in perspective, a standard 1,000-watt inverter will draw about 20 watts continuously. It's essentially an energy vampire, just sitting there in the background, quietly sipping power, 24 hours a day. Now, what's really interesting about this is how fast that invisible load adds up over a full day. You've got the fridge eating up 600 watt-hours daily, but then you've got that sneaky inverter gulping down 480 watt-hours. Think about that for a second. The inverter is eating almost as much energy as the appliance it's powering. When we add the fridge and the inverter loss together, our total daily requirement suddenly jumps to 1,080 watt-hours. If you didn't account for this, your whole system would basically fail almost immediately.
All right. With our true daily demand of 1,080 watt-hours locked in, we can confidently move to Section 4, building your battery bank. Generating solar power is awesome, but the sun doesn't shine at night, and it definitely doesn't shine during a 3-day winter storm. We need robust storage.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because nailing this math is absolutely crucial for your battery lifespan. We kick off with our daily use of 1,080 watt-hours. Next, if you're using modern lithium batteries, you really don't want to drain them to absolute zero. To keep them healthy, you want to operate between a 10% and 90% state of charge. That requires a capacity multiplier of 1.2, so 1,080 times 1.2. Finally, we got a plan for bad weather. We need a buffer, what the pros call days of autonomy.
We multiply by 3 to give ourselves 3 full days of backup power. When we multiply 1080 by 1.2 and then by 3, boom, we get a massive total of 3,888 watt-hours of required battery storage.
But here's the thing, when you actually go battery shopping, they're usually rated in amp hours, not just watt hours, and that completely depends on the voltage of the system you're building. Think of it kind of like water flowing through pipes. If you build a 12-volt system, you'll need roughly 300 amp hours of storage. Step that up to a 24-volt system, and that requirement drops in half to about 150 amp hours. And if you go all the way up to a 48-volt system, you only need roughly 75 amp hours to hold that exact same massive energy capacity. Looking at those options, the source data strongly recommends going with the 48-volt system. And why is that? Well, higher voltage basically means lower current to deliver the same amount of power. Lower current means you can get away with much thinner wiring, which, trust me, makes installation way easier and a lot safer. More importantly, it results in higher overall system efficiency, making sure fewer of those precious watts are lost as heat as energy travels from your panels to your batteries and finally to your fridge. Okay, moving right along to Section 5, the real climax here, sizing the solar array. We've got our massive 3,888 watt-hour battery bank safely designed. Now, we have to calculate the actual panels needed to refill that bank in a single day. So, the golden rule of off-grid solar is that you absolutely have to design for the worst month of the year. Not the best, the month with the least amount of sunlight is your baseline. Now, this varies wildly depending on where you live, but let's take Houston, Texas, for example. In the dead of winter, Houston sees a minimum of roughly 3.5 hours of usable direct sunlight a day. That 3.5, that is our magic number. We literally have to capture all the energy we need for the entire day in just that short little window. And this brilliantly illustrates why doing the math matters. We take our required storage, that 3,888 watt-hours, and divide it by our 3.5 winter sun hours. The math spits out a grand total of 1,110 watts of solar panels. I mean, that is a surprisingly huge requirement just to run a single 75-watt refrigerator, right? But remember what that 1,110 watts actually represents? It is your absolute guarantee that your system stays fully operational during the darkest, shortest days of the year, all while maintaining that reliable 3-day buffer for severe weather. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, customizing your solar system. Now, I know that 1,110 watts is a big number, but please don't let it intimidate you. The rigorous math we just walked through is exactly what creates true reliability. So the crucial point is that this isn't just some rigid one-size-fits-all kit. It is a totally customizable formula. You can take this exact blueprint and tailor it to your own life. Step 1, grab a plug-in energy meter and measure your exact fridge for a week. Step 2, look up the specific worst month winter sun hours for your exact location. Step 3, take your personal numbers and just rerun this exact calculation. Which leaves us with one final, really fun question to kick off your project. What are the winter sun hours in your zip code? I highly encourage you to go look up your local weather data right now, grab an energy meter, and start running your own numbers. Because once you understand the math, complete energy independence is absolutely within your reach. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy building!